Um, I just want to say that I am baffled by the lack of ability by Donald Trump to get his message across, because his message is actually not, doesn't have hate, and it doesn't have bigotry, and it does not have xenophobia. And please, I know you're probably just laughing or barfing or well, whatever. Like, how could that be? I'm telling you, I listened to these families who had a family member murdered by someone who was not supposed to be here long term. And at first I was really turned off, and I thought, oh my God, this is so awful. Like, why are they latching on to the person's status? Oh, how ridiculous. And then I thought about it, and I would hear, oh, okay, no, they committed a crime, or they had multiple DUIs, let's say, or they'd gone back and forth many times, which is often what people do. And they shouldn't have been here, and then they committed the crime. It's kind of like it's like the guy who got out of prison after 17 years. He was in there for assault with a deadly weapon. That's a long sentence. And he got into an argument with people at a bowling alley in Torrance, just here in the South Bay area of LA. And he shot and killed 3 men. And just like I would say there, like, those people now are dead because society failed him. So there are some people, many, like including many in the ACLU, who feel like an undocumented or illegal immigrant who gets out of prison shouldn't be deported because they've served their time, and they have rights too. But here's how I want to explain this. Right now, they are not here legally. And so if they are misbehaving, why doesn't the US government care enough about their child who was killed at the hands of someone who wasn't supposed to be here to enforce the deportation of someone who had behaved badly? And that's the case. It's not that anyone, including these people, believe that Latinos are more prone to violence or crime, that there are hordes of evil people. I know that when people talk about the caravan and they say invasion, that it sounds that way. But then you talk to people and they say, sure, I know there's a lot of good people in there, but there's 2% that aren't. So that's the difference between the conservative mind and the liberal mind. The conservative mind feels like, well, why should I have to, sugarcoat everything? Obviously, I don't think that Latinos are inherently violent, or obviously I'm not blaming children, or obviously I don't think families should be separated, but this is a terrible situation. What would you suggest? But they don't say all the time. They don't say that. They think that you should know that's how they feel. So then they just say, come here legally. So, and then liberals say, what is wrong with you? You don't like brown people. They're murderers and they're rapists. Now, when Donald Trump gave his speech announcing his candidacy, he said, Mexico is not sending their best. And he said they are rapists, they're murderers, and I suppose some are good people. Horrible, absolutely horrible. I suppose, sure, it could be a figure of speech, but really not a good look. However, he is right. The southern border is so long. It's so long that there are many, many different areas and many areas for smugglers to take advantage. So I know it's hard to see, but many people are looking at behavior. The fact that San Jose del Cabo, near Cabo San Lucas, just became the murder capital of the world, beating out Tegucigalpa, Honduras, or it might have been San Pedro Sula, where the caravan came from. But either way, it's hard. It sounds like we are offending the Mexican immigrants that are here, that are going to school here, and that is not right. That's not right. And the percentage of people who may jeer at anyone, any immigrant in this country, are indefensible, absolutely indefensible. But I just want you to know that I firmly believe in my heart that the vast majority of people, including Donald Trump, who believe that we should have more border security and a wall, are not sitting there hating brown people, or even stoking fear. We have been facing a greater and greater crisis. Sure, 1.6 million were apprehended at the border in the year 2000. Okay, that's been in all the fact checks. And in 2018 fiscal year, it was more around 600,000 were apprehended. However, you look in, and for the first time, unaccompanied minors, family units are coming. And that has surged. You can look, I have another video with charts. I also know that the experts who say a wall will work are being suppressed by mainstream media. And I don't think a wall sounds good. It doesn't sound like a nice thing. But because of the smuggling that happens, I have no problem with it. Because I know that every immigration reform bill that is passed since Reagan has always talked about border security, but then when it came to the funding, they would backpedal. And then, oh, lo and behold, oh, it was an unfunded mandate. Sorry. And then big business lobbies Congress and says, you know, let's ease up on the enforcement part, shall we? I mean, I'm not kidding. This is part of the Washington Post. Thank you for listening this far. If you want, go on the Border Patrol Council website, read their editorial. I'll link to it here. Before the election, where they talk about how a wall is the most effective. And I would just like to say that as lacking in the ability to persuade as Donald Trump might be to the liberal part of this country, when he says walls work, this is what he's saying. Not throughout the whole thing, because there are natural barriers, of course. But just think about it. If 400 people are crossing a day, let's say around Yuma, Arizona, that's high, but like, okay, maybe like 100 to 400 people are crossing a day. And you have Border Patrol chasing them around and trying to see who's like climbing a fence or sneaking in through a fence and all this stuff, or jumping in the Rio Grande, which is not in Yuma, but it would be in Texas. And you tell me how strenuous and how many resources and everything we spend to rescue many of these migrants who have gone through the most horrific conditions, and many of whom die. I mean, it is the reason that conservatives are saying build a wall is they are trying to send a very powerful message. Don't make this journey. It's not going to be successful. And not to mention that they often pay thousands and thousands of dollars to smugglers, and then have to pay that debt off, and there's human trafficking. It is not a joke, and it's not made up. Okay, there are reams and reams of articles before Trump came along talking about how the southern border is absolutely perfect for smuggling. And remember, the statistics the mainstream media gives you are the known statistics. Just think about that. Yeah. So, I'm not really sure what else to say except that I believe there is a crisis on the southern border. And to say that it is manufactured in the president's own mind is to be deceitful and misleading. If you would like to see more details about my fact check, you can look at some of the other videos I've got. I have charts, and thank you for your time. And immigrants, friends, thank you for your service.